Unit 1A, Lesson 1. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the distance, midpoint, and slope formulas. These are things you're going to use throughout your high school mathematics career, so it's important you understand them from the beginning. The first one we're going to discuss is the distance formula. So the formula we're going to use is d equals the square root of y2 minus y1, that quantity squared, plus x2 minus x1, that quantity squared. If we look at a coordinate plane, we have our x-axis and our vertical y-axis. If we just pick two arbitrary points, our first ordered pair is x1, y1, and then our second point is x2, y2. The distance formula allows us to find the distance between these 2 points on the coordinate plane. In the formula, it doesn't matter if you find the difference of your y values or your x values first. So these terms could be switched around in the formula. That's your commutative property. Now we're going to go through an example finding the distance between these 2 points. So our first ordered pair is -4, 7. Second ordered pair is 5, 2. One thing you'll find with the distance formula, it doesn't matter if you make this first ordered pair x sub 1, y sub 1, and the second one x sub 2, y sub 2, or if you made the first one x sub 2, y sub 2, and then the second ordered pair x sub 1, y sub 1. Okay, that's not going to matter, and we'll go through that and show that in this example. So the first thing we have to recall our distance formula, which you should have written down in your notes previously. All we have to do is take these values and plug them into the formula. If we plug those values in, we have 7 minus 2. We find the difference of the y values and square that quantity, and then we take -4 minus 5, the difference of the x values, and square that quantity. It doesn't matter if you switched your x and y terms around and put the x before, you're going to end up with the same result in the end. So now if we go through and simplify, 7 minus 2, we get 5 squared, plus -4 minus 5 is -9 squared. 5 squared we know is 25, -9 squared is 81, so 25 plus 81, we end up with an answer of the square root, or radical, 106, which is going to be somewhere between 10 and 11. So that would be the distance between these two ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. Earlier I stated it does not matter which ordered pair you make, x sub 1, y sub 1, and which one you make x sub 2, y sub 2, because when you go through and simplify, you're going to get the same result in the end. And that's what I'm showing you off to the right. So if I had started, and instead of taking 7 minus 2, I took 2 minus 7, the difference of my y values, and squared that quantity, and then I took 5 minus -4, the difference of my x values, and squared that quantity. 2 minus 7, I get -5, that quantity squared, plus 5 minus a -4 is the same as 5 plus 4, which is 9, that quantity squared. -5 squared, 25, 9 squared, 81, add those together, 106. So we get the same result in the end. The reason that works is because if we're squaring a quantity, that result is going to be positive in the end. If you take a negative times a negative, that's a positive answer, or if you take a positive times a positive, that's going to be a positive answer in the end. So that's why it doesn't matter which ordered pair you designate as which. The result will be the same in the end. Now we're going to go through the midpoint formula, which is finding the middle of two ordered pairs. Essentially, we're finding the average of the x and y coordinates. So the formula we're going to use is capital M equals x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2, and then y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. So we end up with an ordered pair in the end. So if we have an arbitrary point, x sub 1, y sub 1, and another point, x sub 2, y sub 2, the midpoint formula allows us to find the middle between those 2 points. Now for an example, we have the ordered pair 3, 8, and another ordered pair -2, 0. Just like the distance formula, it doesn't matter which one you make, x sub 1, y sub 1, which one you make x sub 2, y sub 2, because in the formula you're adding those two values together to find the average. Okay, so just plug these values into the formula and simplify. Plugging those values into the formula, we get m equals 3 plus negative 2 divided by 2, and then comma 8 plus 0 divided by 2. 3 plus negative 2, you can just think of that as 3 minus 2, which is 1, divided by 2, which just simplifies to 1/2. 8 plus 0 is 8, divided by 2 simplifies down to 4. Okay, and we're going to work with keeping these results in fractions, because I know you all love fractions, so we're going to practice and keep working with fractions. Now the last formula to discuss in this lesson is the slope formula, which is lowercase m equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So we have these two arbitrary points in the coordinate plane. We're trying to find the slope between these 2 points using that formula, which a phrase you can help think of if you're referring to the coordinate plane is rise over run. We're finding the change in our y values, the rise, and then dividing by the change in our x values, the run. So rise over run. Slope is also referred to as the rate of change. You can see it as delta y over delta x. Many different ways to refer to the slope between 2 points. The final example in this lesson, finding the slope between 2 points, we have the point 4, negative 9, and the point 2, 3. So all I have to do, plug these into the formula and simplify. The formula for slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I can take negative 9 minus 3, the difference of our y values, divided by 4 minus 2, the difference of our x values. Now if we simplify negative 9 minus 3, negative 12. 4 minus 2 is 2. Negative 12 divided by 2 simplifies down to negative 6. Just like we talked about earlier with the distance formula, and actually the midpoint formula as well, it does not matter which point you make x1, y1, which one you make x2, y2. Okay, as I showed to the right, when we simplify, we're going to get the same results in the end. Okay, the only thing that matters is consistency. So if you start with this y value first, so you take 3 minus a negative 9, the 2 that corresponds with the same ordered pair as that y value 3 must be the point you start with. So if you take 3 minus negative 9, then you have to take 2 minus 4. What you cannot do is take 3 minus negative 9 and then start with 4 and take 4 minus 2. That's going to give you the wrong sign on your slope in the end. In this lesson, we talked about points in the coordinate plane and being able to find the distance, midpoint, and slope between those points on the coordinate plane. Those 3 formulas are 3 formulas that you really need to understand and memorize. Okay, those concepts are not going to go away. We use them in geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, and those of you that take calculus. So you need to really understand those formulas and memorize them, be able to use them immediately.